I'm making this video for my lovely friend Nikki, who's asked me to just show what I like to do and talk a little bit about how it works and why I love it. I throw pots. I do it because I love it, because it's relaxing, all the reasons a lot of people do creative things. And today I'm going to show you how I make a chalice. In my working life, I'm a vicar, and this sort of brings things together rather nicely. I made one of these for a friend recently. She put it up on Facebook and now lots of people want them, so I'm making about seven. This is number 7 that I'm making now. I am not planning on going into production. This is a hobby for folks out there. Okay, so first of all we have to centre the clay. We're making the top of the chalice first. We need to get the clay in the middle of the wheel. This is called throwing pots, and that's the only point at which you do any throwing. It's not really throwing, it's more hitting. The rest of it is pulling really rather than throwing. So first of all, kind of roughly stick the clay in the middle of the wheel, and then we turn the wheel on. And we want it going fast because that's much easier to get it in the middle of the wheel. And we're going to squish the clay down and push it towards the centre at the same time. Left hand pushing into the centre, right hand pushing down. Still pretty wibbly wobbly. Okay, want it smooth as possible, otherwise the pot pulls itself apart as it's spinning because the bits that stick out catch in your hands. It's got to be central, otherwise you're stymied from the word go. Okay. So I'm also squeezing out any last air bubbles in the clay. Air bubbles in a pot would expand when firing and cause the pot potentially, not necessarily, but potentially to shatter. So I pull the clay up and squish it down a couple of times, and it's being spun round in a spiral at the same time, so you're basically wringing out any air bubbles as you go up and down a couple of times. If it was a bigger bit of clay, I'd spend longer doing this because the kneading, the twisting that I'm doing on the wheel would take longer to have an effect on all of the clay. Oh dear, there we go. This removable square in the middle is a bit loose on this particular one, which is not great because obviously that pushes the clay off centre. Right, that's central now. So next I'm going to make a hole in the middle. Everybody has their own ways of doing this, variations on a theme in terms of how they hold their hands, which fingers they use. It just has to do with posture, how you've set your workstation up, how strong you are. Some people would use their thumbs for this bit. I don't always do it the same way. Depends how much clay you're using as well. Right, so that's central. It's got a hole in the middle. Made a kind of a donut / ashtray. And we want to turn this into a bowl, the top of the chalice. Okay, so we can turn the speed down now, because the taller the pot gets, the more it's liable to get pulled outwards. We don't want a plate, we want a bowl, so I'm going to turn that down. There you go, the note getting lower. Now I'm going to push my thumb against the side of the clay on the outside to hold it steady, stop it getting dragged away by the rotation of the clay, and I'm going to squeeze with my fingers on the inside as I lift upwards. See, you pull pots, you don't throw them. Right, so we're making a cylinder first, and then I'm just going to slightly compress the rim because that's where all the slip, the liquid squidgy clay, collects. And if the rim of your pot is made of liquid, it's not going to hold together, it's going to crumble. No amount of firing is going to make that strong enough to work. So you need to scrape that off and press down, wring out some of the water effectively. Okay, squeeze. Oh, that bat really is loose, that's annoying. Right, lift up. Still quite thick. Don't want the walls of our pot that thick. Won't feel very nice in your hand. You want it as light and graceful as possible, really. Okay. Oops. Squeeze. This time I'm going to pull outwards ever so slightly. It doesn't need much encouragement to turn into a cone shape. The centrifugal force does that. Okay, still a bit thick, so we'll keep going. And that one is just making sure the pot stays slippery. Any dry patches will drag against my skin and distort the pot, basically wreck it. Okay. Make a little divot at the bottom. This is what I've been doing all along with my thumb, and push out against my thumb with the fingers on the inside of the pot. So I'm thinning the wall of the pot and then pulling the lump of clay that I've squeezed out upwards, spreading it out, squeezing it. Okay, that's about the thickness I want now. You can see the rim's very wobbly because it's got lots of slip on it. So we're just going to take that off. Okay. Shape the rim so it's nice to drink from. So it's sloped on the inside and comes up to a thin edge. Slopes outwards on the inside and is more or less vertical on the outside, because that just feels nice to drink from. Then there's still a fair amount of slip there, and obviously it's very fragile, so I can't just squeeze it to get rid of all the slip. I've got a bit of chamois leather here, which is nice and wet. I'm going to very carefully drape that over the edge of the bowl. Holds its shape nicely. Use it to squeeze and scrape off slip. Do that last little bit of shaping. There we go. Quite a lot of water in the bottom there. And to remove that so that the sides don't dry much more quickly than the bottom. Then you might get cracking. Okay, and so that the bottom isn't less dense than the sides, because the bottom might fall out of your chalice, which would be no use. Now, I don't like that shape. It's too much like a flower pot, too kind of flat and square. I want something a bit more curvaceous. So I'm going to use what's called a rib to scrape off small slip and shape the pot at the same time. It's called a rib because originally that's what they were. Animal bones, ribs, which were curved, slightly flexible, lightweight, can be polished to a fine smoothness. Nowadays they're made of all sorts of things. This one is actually a car air freshener. I found it lying around in the woods, somebody dumped it. I've got a rubber one, I've got wooden ones and metal ones, just depends what you're trying to do. Anyway, so this is an unofficial rib, but it works excellently. It's nice and small. So I'm going to use it to push the side of the pot out to more of a curve. Bottom's still rather flat. I don't like that, I don't want it to look like a teacup. I'm going to use this rubber one because it's a bit more rigid. And gouge a bit out of the bottom of the chalice so that it comes down in a nice curve to the centre. There we go. We have a lump of clay in there, it's fine, we can get rid of that. Make sure you've got it below the centre of the bottom of the pot, otherwise it gets dragged in and makes a hole rather than working smoothly. I just use my finger to get rid of that line around the bottom. There we go. I can feel that the bottom of the pot's nice and dense, there's no squidginess in there. It's nice and compacted, that's good. Still a bit square. It's better. More bowed outwards. This is a bit big for this job. I love this one. Circular wooden rib. A nice little grippy finger hold. Let's give it a go. I think it'll fit. That's better. Want the bowl to sit in your hand nicely, it needs to be curved. There we go. See? Yeah, curved like that. Right. Lovely. One bowl / top of a chalice. One bowl / top of a chalice. Okay, I'll cut that off, make the bottom and assemble it tomorrow. Okay, right, squish. Squish it a bit more this time. It wasn't attached to the wheel. Squeeze it in. Started squeezing in before I got it properly stuck down. What's the problem? Being impatient. Okay. Up and down. Okay, make the hole in the middle. Squeeze outwards, not too far this time. Right, we're making the bottom of a chalice, the stem and the foot. And I do this by making it upside down. I make an inverted cone. Which once it's dried a bit, I can stick onto the bottom of the bowl. So the whole thing's made upside down actually. Make the bowl the right way up, but then you turn it over. I'll stick the foot on. Okay, let's turn the speed down. Squeeze in a bit more, so we have a nice narrow top to the stem, so that it's going to attach to the bowl here. A bit narrow, squeeze in and up. Made a few chalices now, and one of the key things, one of the many things, is to get it balanced. You don't want the top to be heavier than the bottom, or when you pick it up you're liable to spill the wine. you don't want the bottom to be massively heavier than the top either. It's just not going to be very nice to use. If it's being passed from minister to person receiving communion, likelihood of slippages and spillages is higher, so it just needs to be easy to handle. Okay, I'm going to pull that in a bit. Don't want it to flare out too quickly because we won't get it tall enough. We need to get it tall enough first and then make it wider at the top. When you're pulling a pot, you want to do it gradually. Don't want to do it too suddenly, because if you squeeze hard and make the wall of the pot thin at the bottom and expect to be able to pull all the clay upwards in one go, the pot's just going to collapse because the bottom of the pot will be weak, flimsy, and it'll have all the weight of the clay sitting on top of it and it'll just go bleh, slump downwards. Technical term, bleh. Right. Saying that because at the moment the rim's quite a bit thicker. To watch it. Okay, it's got a bit of a wibble too. I'm going to turn the speed down some more so that wibble doesn't get worse. Okay, now that I can't reach from top to bottom with my thumb, I'm going to use my knuckle sitting against my thumb, so that the knuckle of my left hand is locked in with my right. Sorry, the knuckle of my right hand is locked in with the forefinger of my left hand. And they work together as one. Don't slip about. This one might be going in the bucket. Let's have a look. See if we can pull that in and up. I think we're going to chop the top off because it's quite uneven. That's fine, because I've got too much clay here anyway. So I need a knife or a needle tool. Okay. And can you see this? I'm just going to hold this spike, this needle, against the side of the pot. Gives you an idea of how soft the clay is. Gently squeeze in until the needle touches my finger. Whoop, there we go. And that goes in the bucket. There. Rescued. You don't abandon things immediately. Right, so that's a good thickness at the bottom. Just need to lift it up a bit higher. At the top, thin it out. Squeeze and lift. In the case of the foot of a chalice, it's not like making the rim of a bowl or a cup. You don't want a nice gentle slope and a thin lip. You do want it to have a bit of a foot, so it's sturdy. But you don't want it to be heavy, disproportionately to the top. There we go, that's quite good. I said I'm a vicar, and that's why I ended up making chalices. This is not all I do. I do make a lot of other things. It just happens to be what I'm making right now. Okay. I'm not going to be able to show you the finished product in the same video because it could be up to a month before I've finished it, because I don't have my own kiln. But I will send Nikki a picture of the finished product. Okay, I just want to narrow the bottom a bit and then flare the foot out a smidgen. I don't want it to be like a wine glass with a straight stem and a flat foot. I'd like it to be more gradually tapering outwards. Okay, let's just angle that outwards. Bend it, make it a bit thinner, stretch it further. Okay, just pushing my forefinger of my left hand against the forefinger, the bottom section of the forefinger of my right hand. Okay. Squeeze that in out of the base now. I might squeeze it in there as well. One of the things I like about making chalices is you can play with the shapes a lot. Each one's unique. Hopefully the people who get them like that too. I think they probably will. Because I use chalices on a regular basis to do communion. In my opinion, a good chalice has a bit to get your fist around in the middle. Kind of ball below the cup and at the top of the foot, top of the base, so that you can hold it firmly as you pass it to and take it back from the person having communion, so that handover is just as faff-free and confident as possible. So, whoa, gently, gently, just making that ball by squeezing in two different places. It looks a bit like a cup itself at the moment, but this is the foot. Okay. Just slow it down even more. And go outwards a smidgen. Once it's dried a bit, I'll be able to trim it, which is a bit like if you've seen people turning wood. You use a sharp tool and fine-tune the shape, carve away at it as it spins round. So that's a way of making more graceful shapes once it's got a bit more strength from having dried out a little. Or you can turn in little details, little lines. Don't like that bulge there, I want to straighten that. So I'm going to use my knuckle. There we go. Potter's best tool is their hands. One of the things I like about using pots that I've made is that because they've been made by my hands, they fit in my hands. So if I'm having my coffee from a mug I've made, it sits in my hands really nicely, because that's what shaped it. I wonder if that's how God sees us. It's a nice thought anyway. Okay, knowing when to stop is key with this, because the more I fiddle, the more risk I'm taking in it. As it gets taller and thinner and spun around more, there's a greater risk of it. It's still a bit chunky, it's not as graceful as I'd like, but I can turn it. I would have liked it to be a bit taller, I think. that magic. It got taller. Squeeze the clay in, it moves up. It's now quite off centre. I don't like my chalices to hula. I do like them to be reasonably straight. Right, get my hands slippery. This could be risky. There we go, my dear. I'm going to leave it at that. There we go. One base. And then take this board out the middle. Come on. Hang on a minute. Let's just get rid of some of that slop. There we go. One base. So that's going to work the other way up. Hello. Day 2 of making a chalice. Yesterday we made lots of bases and tops, and today we're going to put them together. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tops of chalices, bowls. There's a base. Where's the rest of them gone? There we go. There's a base, there's a base, there's a base. There's a big fish jug I made for my sister the other day. So we're going to match these up and turn them into chalices. So first thing I need to do is get this in the middle of the wheel. This is one of the bowls I made yesterday. And put it upside down. And we just want to make sure that it is in the centre of the wheel, otherwise we're not going to have, or we're going to have an off-centre base. Just be crooked. So I'm going to draw a circle. Let's have a look. Is that the same distance from the edge all the way round? No, it isn't. I don't think so. So it needs to go that way ever so slightly. Let's just try again. Da, da, da. Throwing pots are never perfectly circular. This bit's tricky because the bowl may have got slightly distorted as I picked it up. So it's a question of, do I get the bowl central on the wheel, or do I get the base of the bowl central on the wheel? They're not necessarily the same thing. I think I want to move that slightly. Just going to hold this here, and then I can see. Right, so I've got a line here. That means that bit of the bowl is further over that way. So I need to move. Then the line goes from there to there. So I need to move the whole thing this way, probably only about a millimetre, fraction of a millimetre even. Tedious bit that it's worth spending time on to get it right. Yeah, that's central now. Lovely. Okay. That may not stay in place all by itself, so we'll get some soft clay just to hold it in place. Now the bowl itself is still soft, so I need to be careful not to squash it as I do this and end up with a square. I'm just going to position those and press them down onto the bat, plastic bat that's secure to the wheel head. So I'm pressing down onto the bat and not into the bowl, so they'll just hold it. Hopefully they're not really stuck to the bowl. Right, now let's start trimming. Let's find a trimming tool. Let's use my hands. First of all, let's get rid of this mess. Turn the speed up a bit. Flatten the base. Cutting the bowl off the wheel head always leaves a lump, however careful you are. If I was making just a bowl, I'd be removing clay from this central circle here and leaving a ring, a foot, so that that foot's the only bit that touches the table or whatever, to make the bowl lighter, nicer to use, to enable it to dry out, to make it more uniform in thickness all the way through the bowl, so that when it fires there's not a risk of it cracking because one part gets hot more quickly or cools down more quickly than the rest of it. We're not doing that. That is bowl making. What we are doing is making a place to stick the foot. I listen, I can hear the differing thicknesses. Don't want to hit too hard because I'll make dents because it's soft. So that higher note thinner, lower note thicker, obviously. Right, I'm going to take a bit more off there. This is not really quite what you'd call leather hard yet. I'd still call this cheese hard, because this clay is actually soft and malleable. Just trying to make the bowl a bit lighter so that the chalice isn't top heavy. Because as I said yesterday, that would lead to it potentially being prone to getting spilled. Right. Okay. Next job. Let's find out how big the base is. Here's my base from yesterday, and that's the correct way up. How big is what we've got at the moment? Minus the messy bit. Okay, fix that in position. So we've saved that measurement. Okay. So we want to mark out where it needs to go. Is that right? I think that's right. Lovely. Okay, we've got a circle marked now. Yeah, you can see that. Just want to cut out, it's kind of oval, the top, so that this is hollow, cylindrical. This isn't going to be visible. Oh, airplane going over. That's a sound we haven't heard in a while. Wonder if Teesside Airport's open. Sounded like it was coming down. Yeah, I'm removing this bit because just to avoid the possibility that air could get trapped between the base of the bowl and the top of the base. So we just make that go all the way through. Can't happen. And it's unnecessary weight as well. Don't want this to be a beast of a chalice. Right, good. Okay, now we need to slip and score. Where's my little wire brush? However much I get this all organised so everything's within reach and in sensible pots, I can still never find the tool. There we go. I want too many tools. Okay, right. So slip and score. So first of all we scratch, score, and go all the way to the middle. Make it rough and then make it wet. Okay. Busy times. It's the RAF. Okay, so we've made that by scratching it and making it wet. Basically the surface is now covered with slip. It's more absorbent, more grabby, so that the two halves will grab hold of each other and bond much more readily. There we go. Right, try and get that nice and central. It should be level. Right, let's just turn that on ever so slowly. Ever so vulnerable at the moment. This is where having the camera set up is very handy. It's got a bit of a wibble. Try and get it both central and level at the same time, which is not always easy. Actually not in this workshop though. I've got hardly any space. So standing back, yeah, the foot isn't 100% level, but it is central. So that's where we want to fix it, so let's fix it in place. Give it a gentle press down. Gentle press down. This is why you, unlike making a bowl, you don't want a thin base to your pot. You are going to have to put a fair amount of pressure on it. Firm and steady. There we go. Right, I'll get a little tool with a wide, I want one with a wide rounded end. Really, flat might have to do. There we go, wide rounded end. And start blurring the clay in. Try and do it as, repeating the same motion over and over, so it's lovely and even if possible. I'm going to take a big bite out of it anywhere. Now from a little bit higher up, just to make it taper in. Okay. Righty ho. can't really do that on the inside, but what I will do is get a paintbrush and just push against the inside edge. Just encourage the edges together. There we are. Be careful not to push against the sides of the base. Don't want to push it off centre again. But I'm just merging the two halves together as much as I can on the inside there. Okay. Let's blend that. Let's get my little sponge. Smooth it, blend it. And be careful not to push against it. Okay, that's coming, but it's still, where have I put the tool I was using? There we go, it's still lumpy, so use this round-ended tool and just try and make that nice and tidy. Tidy. Can't do a Cardiff accent. There we go. Oh, that's nice. Lovely, that's nice and even. Now, it still looks like a bowl with a base stuck to it, and I want to make it look unified, so I'm going to remove this corner here now that I know where the base is coming up to, so that visually they merge into one aesthetically. Bit more smoothing. It's got a few lumps and bumps on it here from being handled when it was wet, I think. Well, anyway, it's got a few lumps and bumps. So we'll just gently tidy them off, but this is not a time for major trimming. I'll come back to it later and decide whether, yeah, that it's not 100% flat, but once it's had a chance to dry and I can stand it the other way up, dry a bit, not completely, once the join has had time to dry, I can stand it the other way up and decide whether it's level enough or whether I want to risk fiddling with it to make that. Let's have a look. How level are you? Yeah, it's got a patch. So it's about 2 mil below where my finger is. So that would mean taking a bit off most of the way around the base, which might not be necessary so long as it doesn't wobble. But we'll give it a chance to dry first. So there we go. There is an upside down chalice. Give that a chance to go off, so to speak, and then see if it needs any last trimming before it's left to dry out completely. Oh, one last thing. Always sign your work. I've got a maker's mark that I press into flat things, but that would wreck this, so I'm just going to sign it with my initials. There we go. And because it's a chalice, it's a bit special. Using my gifts for God, so there's a cross and some Greek symbols. Chi-Rho, Christ is King. Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. There we go. I'll just do that on church vessels. And then the date. MMXX.